What is mortgage underwriting? If you submitted a mortgage application recently, you might be told that the case is with underwriting or is in underwriting. In this video, we're going to look at exactly what is underwriting, the process involved, what documents you might need, how long it's likely to take. We're going to structure the video by answering the top 10 questions that our clients frequently ask us when it comes to underwriting to give you a bit better understanding. What is mortgage underwriting? Essentially, this is the lender making a decision whether or not they think you're a worthy candidate to borrow money from them. There's a few bits and pieces that are involved. For example, they will look at your credit history. They'll look at your financial situation, your income versus outgoings, how much they think you can afford to borrow on a mortgage. They'll look at the property that you're buying, whether it fits their criteria, whether they think it's acceptable risk. All that kind of stuff goes into making a decision whether or not you can borrow money from them, and that process is known as underwriting. What documents are required for mortgage underwriting? So it depends on the lender and it depends on your individual circumstances, but as a very rough guide, you might be expected to ask for things like proof of ID, so a passport or driving license, proof of address, either utility bill or financial statement. You might be asked for evidence of income. If you're employed, that could be pay slips, P60s. If you're self-employed, could be tax calculations, tax returns, company accounts, that sort of thing. They'll also look for evidence of your outgoings, so they might ask for your bank statements for the last 3 months. All this kind of stuff helps them put together a picture of you and your circumstances so that they can make a decision. How long does the mortgage underwriting process take? Well, it can be anything between a few hours and a few weeks to even months in some cases. You'll find that there's a lot of lenders now that use a lot more automated underwriting procedures. So they'll look at things like Experian to work out income and outgoings. They'll look at automated valuation models to look at the value of the property, and if all of that comes together nicely, you can find that the mortgage offer is produced the same day without any kind of manual underwriting required. However, some cases can take a bit longer. You might need a full valuation, in which case you'll need a surveyor to go out to visit the property, and that depends on how busy they are in your area at that point in time. You might have a bit more complex case that requires a bit more manual underwriting, a bit more back and forth to gather more information. So it all depends on the case and the lender you're applying to and the time at which you're doing it. What factors do underwriters look at when considering a mortgage application? Be things like credit score, employment history, income stability, debt to income ratios, savings, the property value, loan to value ratios, all sorts of things. A bit of a kind of holistic approach. So how risky is this case? Do we want to lend or not? Can my mortgage be denied during underwriting? Yes, there's potential that a case that is approved from, let's say, a decision in principle stage that gets declined at underwriting. There might be new information that comes to light, and it might be something that the underwriter's not happy with. It might be an issue with the valuation on the property. So yes, there is a possibility that it's declined at underwriting, even if it has maybe approved during a decision in principle or agreement in principle stage. What is a conditional approval in mortgage underwriting? So you might, for example, have a case that the underwriters assess and they're perfectly happy with, but there's one piece outstanding. Let's say, for example, the mortgage valuation hasn't been done yet. They can offer an approval subject to that valuation being satisfied. How can I improve my chances of getting through the mortgage underwriting process smoothly? My one top tip here is to make sure that all your documentation is registered to the address that you're living at currently. We see a lot of mortgage applications come through, particularly from first-time buyers, whereby, let's say, for example, the bank statements are still registered at the parent's address that they lived at 10 years ago. They're registered to vote at the address they went to uni at. It all makes things a bit muddled and a bit complicated. There's questions to be answered by the underwriter. So if you can put everything together in one place, it just makes it a much quicker, easier, smoother transaction. So that would be my top tip. Other things you can do is make sure you get your documents in order, make sure you've got your pay slips, your P60s, your bank statements, everything nice and orderly, and that basically all the information is provided to the lender or the broker is accurate, and so there's no mismatches. All that kind of stuff will save time and make sure the application goes through underwriting nice and smoothly. What's the difference between an agreement in principle or decision in principle and mortgage underwriting? Well, a decision in principle for most lenders is an automated thing. You plug your details in, or your broker plugs them in. The system basically runs a credit search in the background and determines a yes, no answer. Will they lend you the amount you've applied for? Underwriting is a bit more involved. There's a bit of a human touch there. They're going to look at the information that's provided and they're going to compare it to the documents provided. They might do a bit of research on the company that you work for, a few little background checks like that. So there's a lot more involvement in the underwriting process, whereas the agreement in principle or decision in principle stage is a lot more automated. So just because you get through the decision in principle doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pass underwriting. There's a few more checks that are involved there. What happens if there are discrepancies or issues found during the mortgage underwriting process? Well, the underwriter might ask for further clarification. It might be information from yourself or further documentation. It might be that they need some action from you, which involves paying off debts or correcting errors on your credit report. What role does the property appraisal play in the mortgage underwriting process? Well, the property valuation will be done by an independent third party. The report will then be sent back to the underwriter to help them make a decision on the loan. Things like the value of the property will obviously be pretty key. They want to make sure that the property that they're about to lend this money on is worth what we say it's worth, that it's suitable security for the loan, that there's no issues, you've not got subsidence and things not about to fall down. That kind of stuff is obviously quite important to the lender's decision. So the report that's received by the underwriter will be factored into their decision when approving the loan or not. So those are the answers to the top 10 questions our clients most frequently ask us about the mortgage underwriting process. Hopefully that's given you some good information and maybe answered some of the questions you had. If it was, then please do feel free to have a look through the rest of the channel. Plenty of good information on there on all sorts of topics.